Okay, so hi everybody, it's Anjanette and Karen Walk, and we want to welcome you to Kitchen Chats today. But with us, we have a special guest. Her name is Jatu Boikai, and she's from Columbus, Ohio. And Karen reached out to me. Karen and I have been friends for a long time, and we are all about the cause, okay, and helping people in whatever area they're struggling with. We've told you here you could reach out to us anytime. But Jatu and Karen have been friends also for a long time. And Jatu is out in Columbus, Ohio. So we're going to hear more from her in a bit. And she is really advocating for the maternal health and the disparities in African American women, and how really no one is out there helping them and advocate for it. She's also one of the few or the only African American woman in leadership there. And that in and of itself does raise a problem, because those voices are not being heard, because those people are not in positions to really advocate. So we want to draw some attention to that. And then we're going to talk about how we could advocate more for Jatu at state and local levels. Whether you're in Ohio or not, you can write to your city councilman or governors elsewhere and tell them how this is really pressing on a concern for you, and how you'd like to see more people in those positions where they could really advocate for the people that are constantly being neglected. Okay, so everybody believes that a child is a special gift, everybody that I know and that I involve myself in. And unfortunately, these children are losing their lives before they even take their first breath. And that to me is very troubling. So we want to hear a little bit more about Jatu and see how Karen and I can help. So hi Jatu, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing. Karen is more involved. Karen's reached out to me and she knows a lot more about your story. So I want the audience to really know what it's like for you, and how that struggle's been going and what you're doing.
Amazing work. Please don't hold back, because you have been a trailblazer and we want to hear it. Everyone else needs to hear it, sis. Go ahead.
First of all, thank you to Karen for even reaching out and inviting me onto this show. We are sorority sisters. We are in a professional nursing organization called Chi Eta Phi Incorporated, Sorority Incorporated. And so I'm really appreciative that we've stayed connected and are able to lift each other up in this way. So thank you, Karen. So let me start with how I got into my career. I've been a nurse for about 12 years now. Most of my career has been in women's health. I, as a new grad, was very blessed and lucky enough to get a job in labor and delivery right off the bat, which is almost unheard of. Not just as a new grad, but as a Black new grad, it doesn't happen. Let's just be honest, especially where I am. I did grow up in New York. I moved to Ohio when I was a teenager, stayed here through high school and college, and started my nursing career here. So I was able to get that, job, and it sort of, I took it from there pretty much. After 2.5 years at the hospital that I started at, I decided to become a travel nurse, and I traveled back to home, back to New York, and sort of stayed. Finished up my leadership master's degree and got into leadership. And after 7 years in New York, I decided to come back to Ohio to take this position as a nurse manager of a labor and delivery and a mother-infant unit. So I managed 2 units. And over the course of my career, I've seen it all. And when it comes to the diversity in the workplace, I've worked in places where I was the only Black nurse. Actually, this job that I started on the units that I manage, I was the only Black nurse on the whole floor. And I've worked in places where I was part of the majority, which was beautiful, and that has its ups and downs as well. But overall, it's for a Black woman to work with other Black women, it is an encouraging situation, as opposed to being the only. And so, you know, when I started here, one of my goals was to diversify this unit, because it's very alienating and it's very lonely to feel like, you know, you're the only one, especially when you don't represent when your staff doesn't represent the community that you serve. You know, you feel like you're the only one that can advocate for your people,
Absolutely.
for Black women. And there's plenty of Black women who come through here, and sometimes they're by themselves and can't advocate for themselves. And so you know, I don't want to be the only person having to take on that burden. So, you know, representation matters everywhere.
Absolutely.
You know, as we know, the maternal morbidity and mortality rates in the US in general, like among all women, it's terrible. We are dying left and right, but it's 2 to 3 times worse for Black women and 2 times worse for Black children, Black infants. We're dying. We're not surviving childbirth, and there's nothing that we can point to outside of racism, honestly. And it started from the very beginning, from the founding fathers of obstetrics. They used to perform procedures on Black women, on slave women, I should say, without anesthesia, to perfect those procedures for their white patients. It goes back so far, and it's continued till this day. And now it's at the point where I think in 2020, when George Floyd was murdered, like the world sort of just like woke up again, and opened their eyes to what's actually happening and what's been happening and what's not changing. And as a matter of fact, in maternal morbidity and mortality, what's getting worse? It actually is getting worse, which doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Not in this day and age. Absolutely not.
Yeah,
right.
like it's been in the forefront for quite some time, and we know about it, and it's almost like, what are we doing? Because it's getting worse. It doesn't make sense. The math is not adding up. It's not adding up.
Well, people aren't willing, like yourself, to step up, you know, and to make that change. And it takes one, and then it takes a group to step up and actually forge forward to make that change. So, yeah, absolutely right. We question ourselves, like, why hasn't this changed? It's because one person or 2 people like yourself didn't take that chance, or didn't have that strength or that support to make that change. You're right.
Or they just felt like their voice wouldn't matter, you know,
Like
and everybody's voice does matter. So a lot of people are afraid to step outside that box, you know, and I belong to a community of women who really support and educate and elevate, and that's what we do. But so I mean, I work for the city, the so-called Department of Health, right? And they claim they're all about diversity and stuff like that, and I don't want to say what they stand for or who they represent, because I'm not them, but they're supposed to be really looking at these things, and they are a city run agency, and you know, they're always in my inbox telling me what they're doing and how they're helping with these things, but you're proof that nothing's really changing. So is it just those words to satisfy? You know, and you mentioned George Floyd, right? So that was a tragedy, okay? Yeah. But it also brought something else to light for me from an outside. Like I'm not African American, let's face it, okay, right? And I could never say I know what you feel, because I haven't been in that situation. So I can't honestly say that with conviction, right? But I do see what goes on around me every day. So I totally see what you're saying. And I feel like the government, and this is just my opinion, is really adding to that problem. Because instead of really saying, okay, we're making more programs and we're doing this, we're doing that, they're making it all about the racism and not about the solution. So they kind of have left and right so busy arguing and saying we're doing this and we're doing that, and left and right is arguing, and there's no real actions being taken because we're busy over here. We're not paying attention to what they're say they're doing, and they're really not, you know.
Right.
Like our last governor, who I just, you know, and that's my right, I didn't like him. Not our last governor, our last mayor. I just, he never sat right, and I always follow my gut. You know, he had all these food programs. His wife, you know, was responsible for creating all these food programs in New York. But, you know, if I got off in Harlem, these stands were up, but anybody could go by and take a bag, right? So were those really helping the people who needed it? Because a lot of people that didn't need it were just walking by and saying, okay, free groceries, why not? Right? So sometimes the intent is there to help, but the way they go about it is totally back ass, and it's not really getting us, it's not really giving us any forward moving. It's more about lip service, I feel, than actually putting in the step work that you yourself are working on.
Well, and then also we have.
I think that you know, there's definitely merit and there's definitely value when it comes to what can be done on a legislative level, but I think historically, especially for Black people, what is done in the field, and pardon my you know, but the phrase, but what is done on the ground, that's what I say. What is done on the ground by the people tends to make the best impact. What we do on a day-to-day basis as individuals, as you know, and of course we need support, we need a village, we need teamwork, but that's what tends to be the most impactful. So while we need the support from, you know, local and state and even federal governments to sort of solidify our work, we just have to be on the ground working.
Do it. Right. There's a big push right now in education and healthcare for diversity and inclusion. My husband works a lot in it right now. I'm like, it's a wonderful word, diversity and inclusion. And yes, we may get that job that we may not have been able to get in the past, but you have to make that impact. Once you do get in that position, once legislation and this one and that one says, yes, give that colored woman or African-American woman that job, you have to make that impact. We have to do the work. And that's why I appreciate you so much, Jatu, because you're doing the work. You know, in my position now, I work in the insurance industry as a nurse manager. And let me tell you something, when there is miscarriages or women who are African-American women who are unable to conceive, there is no coverage to find out why. There's no coverage, there's no extra steps to say, well, let's go ahead and do the chromosomal testing. Let's go ahead and make sure that, you know, your uterus and your fallopian tubes, your entire reproductive area is well, so we can have you produce, right? We can have you bring in more babies. But if you are of a different color, I want to say that you may have a bigger chance of having that child. And it's really just for me.
I think so too. I think so too, and I think money has a lot to do with it. Because even for myself, you know, I grew up poor in the Bronx, and if you were rich, you didn't die of cancer, and if you were poor, you did. So and that didn't matter in my community. I was in the Bronx. I'm from those block party eras where everybody raised a family, you know. So I get that, but at the same token, we've gotten very away from that era that I was born in. It's not about a community anymore. It's about everybody save or be saved. And everybody feels like they're in this alone. And they don't have to be. That's a choice they make on a day-to-day basis to not be a part of. Because there's lots of people out there, unlike yourself, that are talking about all the problems, but they're not showing up at those community meetings and saying, I want this, and we need this in this community. So what would you, if you could talk to your counterparts, people out there that can make a difference, because you said you're trying to create diversity inside of where you work, okay? So that's a start. But what is lacking there that's stopping you from getting that? Is that management, or do they not understands, because it's great to get that position, but if people are going to keep sometimes giving you position but binding your hands is no different than you not having that position. So if people say, okay, I need you to be a leader, but you can't lead on anything but this, you're not really in a position to lead. So what is that like for you?
That's a wonderful, wonderful question. And I'm glad that you asked it, because I'm struggling with that now. And what I realize is that the work of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's a rabbit hole. And it's heavy. It's heavy, heavy work. And you make progress in one area and realize, oh, well, this is what's stopping me from making progress in this area. So now I have to jump down this rabbit hole. It's really, really intense work. And what I'm realizing now, and this is just maybe step 2 out of, my 5-year, 10-year plan, but I'm realizing now that, and a lot of practitioners of DEI have now added a couple of letters to those initials, DEIB, which means belonging, because that's the step that I'm on right now. Because what I realize is you can bring them in all day. I can have every Black person that I interview, and I have, and I'm fine with saying that. They don't stay, because what you have to do prior to bringing people in is creating an environment of belonging, which is very difficult to do when you look to your left and you look to your right. You don't see anybody who looks like you. So you can come in and you can, it's hard. I was one of maybe 3 or 4 Black nurses in my first nursing job. I left after 2 years. People don't stay.
Right.
Or you don't have people that really work with you as a team. I've led a lot of diverse teams, and they knew that this wasn't about like race with me. They knew that if someone needed to be toileted, it didn't matter what level I was at. I was in there. They could always find me in that bathroom with that patient. That nobody worked harder than the next person, because the team is about our end goal together. So how can they foster that in a place where it's been missing for a really long time? What can we do to bring that in?
It's very, very difficult. What I've tried to do, and I think I've done a pretty good job at, just for myself, is building trust with my team, because it's, you come in and you're the only Black woman, and let's be honest, like, you have to give 110%, where maybe your white counterpart only has to give 90% to get the same result. And it's just how the world works, and we know it going into these careers, and we do it well. We thrive, but bringing people in, like I said, that's just step number 1. And it's going to take work, and I'm still working at it, fostering that environment of belonging and of true inclusion, which is not just, hey, welcome to the team, but like, you are now part of our family.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
That is at the top levels, because shit rolls downhill, Jatu. It starts at the top and it trickles down. So if the people at the top are not creating an environment that fosters and embraces an environment that they can really feel like they can voice their opinion and be transparent and ask for help. And it's not about being perfect. It's about putting yourself out there and trying to really, the best part of really being on a team is really being able to communicate with the other members and get their insights and see how you can make them feel respected and valued. Because let's face it, if I'm working with you and I don't feel valued and respected, I'm not going to stay either. I'll be out that door.
Right.
Because if you don't respect me or value what I'm contributing as another healthcare professional, or even as another human being, because that's your mother in there. That could be your auntie, your grandmother, well, not having babies at grandma age, hopefully, but science is expanding. If you don't feel that respect, then you're not going to want to be a part of. So how can we really embrace that?
Kudos to not only my direct supervisor, my director, but to my organization, because they are really trying. You can tell, and it's not easy work. Nobody has the answers, but they're not scared to have the conversations. And that is huge, because for so long we've just not had the conversation because we don't, because it's uncomfortable. It doesn't make us feel good. We want things that make us feel good, and conversations about race do not make us feel good. And so I will give a lot of credit to, one, my boss, for making the final decision to hire me, because let me tell you, I've heard rumblings, and I've heard, oh, well, you know why they hired her, right? The Mount Carmel's trying to diversify. And it's like, no, they hired me because of my resume, because it speaks for itself.
How about that?
Yes. Yes.
I beat out almost 10 people for this job because I'm qualified to do so. And hearing that discourages you. And I'm open. I'm like, I went to my boss and I'm like, well, guess what I heard today? And she's like, oh, honey, your competition out of the water. And I was like, all right, that's all I need to hear. Good. I'm good.
Yeah. We're always going to have people, it doesn't matter who you are, that are going to try to belittle and degrade. So as women, and that comes from that being in that all man world. And I mean, because as women, we take 2 steps forward and 3 back. Now they want to tell us what to do with our bodies again. So we're going back in time. We're not really advancing. We have to work twice as many hours to make the same money a man is making. It doesn't make sense. Right. But we have to be willing, like you said, to have those conversations. And it may make them uncomfortable, but the only way you're going to get through it is to do it, to sit and have those conversations. And maybe, there's always going to be jealousy, and jealousy comes at many different levels. Okay. So, and I want to tell you, they may feel threatened by you because you are so good at your job. So take it from where it comes, because it's when they stop talking, you really got to worry. Really.
That's true.
Okay. Because when they're talking, it's because, they don't want to look at what they're doing. And if they want to be in that position, then they have to work hard like you did to get there. And that goes.
My position was open for like 10 months. So anytime I get, and of course, I take criticism very well, but like anytime I get undue criticism, I'm like, you could have applied for this job 10 months before I even showed my face.
Right.
I'm here now. Let me do my
gonna come, and that's when you call on your supports, right? Your backbone. You call on your sorority sisters, us, or your friend, just to support you, so you don't end up going back or feeling down and wanting to quit the job. We are here to support you and hold you up. I want you to continue to do great things and never stop. I do want us to go back a little bit to talk about how we can educate the patients, educate the community, let them know where to go to get the support they need, especially in maternal health, because it's such a sensitive time when you get pregnant, right? When you conceive. Right. It's even more sensitive if you end up losing that child. My God, I hear about it all the time, and I feel it for these women. I've never lost a child, but I do remember getting pregnant and just having that fear, like, who's going to deliver my baby? Is it going to be a colored doctor? Or I hate to say colored. I want someone that looked like me to take care of me and to take care of my baby. So I remember being an OBGYN, and she was Haitian, and she took me in like I was her daughter. And I said, you are going to deliver my kids. And if something happens to you, I'm just going to stop having kids. That's it for me. I'm going to have and that's actually what happened. I had my 2 kids with her. And she had a stroke, and I'm like, all right, well, 2 is enough for me. But I needed that support. I needed that kinship when I was having my child. It is so sensitive. So can you just talk a little bit about how you're out there? I know you do you do have your entrepreneur side.
I'm trying.
You're out there educating and giving the same support that I needed and everyone needs. So let's talk about it.
So I'm trying. It's difficult. Entrepreneurship is not for the weak. I'm trying to.
Listen, you should join our community. It's called She Rises Studios. on Facebook. We support and elevate women. You can come there and talk about what you're doing. People might need your services. You know, there's no charge to join our group. We support you, and nobody says you can't post what you're doing and who you are. And it's all about really elevating and educating women. I encourage Karen to join too, because I've met the most amazing women. I never thought I'd be a writer, and I'm an international best-selling author. So you might be able to get your word out that way. There's lots of different ways to get out your word, and what it's like for you to be living in the life you are. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Ask me to come visit, because I will come and support you. You know, it takes me but a minute. I'll be like,
and we'll get out there with rally sticks, girl. You don't know. You don't know me and Karen.
I love it. Well, then shameless plug, mobinurses.com. That's my platform where I want to really support all women, but especially women of color, to sign up for the services that we provide. It's a team of nurses that will provide perinatal education, advocacy, actually virtual private nursing, where you can call us 24/7 for any question you have. We do breastfeeding education, childbirth education. There's a wide gamut of things that we provide. But then we also, as Karen talked about, we also provide a bereavement package for patients that have established with us and end up losing their baby, because a lot of services that do all the things that I just mentioned stop there. They don't do that part. They don't support women after they've lost their child, or after they've lost their infant, because, you know, as we know, infant mortality is also, you know, on the high. And a lot of infants don't make it to their first birthday, and then people are just sort of, you know, there's nowhere for people to go when that happens. They only have the support of their family, and if they don't have that, they have nothing. So that's the service that I you know, want to provide for women. Right now it is at a cost, of course, because you have to maintain, but I would love to offer this service to all women who can't afford it, because it's so valuable, especially that advocacy piece. Having you know, credentialed, professional Black women, women of color, to go to advocate for you, to ask questions about things that you may not feel comfortable asking your own doctor about. It's huge, and it goes such a long way.
But there is differences in the bodies, you know, and the way we're raised, and culture. There definitely is. And culture and cultural competence plays a big role in nursing. So it's only natural to want to be seen by somebody that looks like you, and that understands your unique body, you know, because that's what everybody wants. They want to feel understood. So I just want to put a plug in your ear. When I was in nursing school, there was a nurse practitioner, and she had this mom and pop house, and I'll never forget her. And I didn't have healthcare. Like, I didn't have like good healthcare back then. So someone recommended me to this woman who saw you and stuff like that. And, you know, I said, how much do I owe you for today's visit? She said, give me what you can. Okay. She was an African-American woman, and her mother and her daughter did this whole mom and pop thing. She was a nurse practitioner. She worked in the legal system for kids that were abused and battered. She did so much in the community. I mean, I couldn't even believe what this woman was out there doing. I got tired just hearing all the stuff she did. But she was out there doing what she needed to do to get people in her community to come in, because so many people didn't have access to healthcare or couldn't afford healthcare, and she didn't want to be the reason why they were denied that healthcare. So and she, you know, I remember seeing people dropping off food and all kinds of stuff because they wanted to pay her in whatever way they could. But she stuck with me. I referred so many people to her because I loved her. She was the nicest lady, and always sat there and took that time. So are there people like that in your community that are also trying to do what you're doing? Are there community centers where you can bring this team of nurses and spend a day and do like a community fair and introduce yourself to them? Like, you know, in colleges we do those community fairs and we go out into these communities, the community centers, or in the malls, and we spend the day, and you know, they force us to do that in nursing school. Where you do blood pressure all those days. But it's a nice way to, people are so used to saying, okay, what's in it for you? Because people are only out there doing things when there is something in it for them. I mean, that's the truth. There are a lot of people out there, especially with all these you know, new coaches and all these people popping up. Everybody wants their own business now since COVID. So people are really in a place where they're not so trusting. So so how can you create that trust in your community, doing fun things and getting out there and really meeting the people that you do serve on a day-to-day basis, and tell them what you're telling us? You know, we're struggling because, you know, people aren't really talking about their needs of their communities, because your community makes a big difference. Their voice matters. They will say in the covenant, and when they see that your strength, that one girl is doing it by themselves and that they can make a difference, and they see those people out there providing those services, it's a leg up. It's a leg up. So, I mean, I know that you're busy, you're tired, you're fighting a hard fight, and you're working as a nurse. I know those hours. So, but are there, even if two people go out, like you guys take shifts, you know, and two people go out one weekend here, someone goes out here, go to the towns over where the message is not getting, because you are serving. I don't know if you work locally in the town where, like the city that you live, but we want to get everybody involved. And when people see that someone's actually out there helping them and not just doing lip service, things can change.
Absolutely. I completely agree. That's a great idea and a great thought. I think thank you guys for putting me on this platform, because platforms like this are where, you know, the word gets out, and word of mouth. So I appreciate you guys bringing me on here. You know, I hold a license in 3 states, in Ohio, California, and New York. And Ohio just became part of the nursing compact, so I'm actually able to care for patients in, I think, like 23 states or 24 states. So, you know, the world changed and shifted with COVID, and a lot of things are now online. A lot of things are now, you know, globally accessible to people who, you know, can't get out there and go out into their communities and find these resources there. That's really what I kind of want my focus to be on. While I do want to serve my community specifically, I also want to serve the broader community and women of color across the country. So that's really, I think, mobile and electronic platforms are where I want to sort of focus my advertising, if you will, to get the word out there that, you know, we are fully mobile, and we can take care of you from afar, and advocate for you from wherever you are, and be available for you 24/7, no matter where you are in the country.
I think telehealth is an amazing thing that came about. Well, it was always
Absolutely
there, but it exploded during COVID. Amazing. You can open up your iPhone and talk to someone at any time. I think a great niche for you, Jatu, in the maternal health is that part, is that grieving mother, supporting that grieving mother. Some mothers who are grieving may never have a child again just because of that. And if you can support someone to get through that time period and move on, and to be able to conceive and give birth, I think that's an amazing thing, and a blessing. So I would definitely.
so many people get stuck in that. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm an adult. When I lost my mother, I was an adult. When I lost my sister, I was an adult, and I was so stuck in that. And I had people around to support me, but people don't really know what to say to you. They don't.
Yeah.
So they say things like, I'm sorry, and and things like that, but it doesn't really help you move through the stages of grief. And as nurses, we're educated in all those stages and what people are going through and how to really help them in a more impactful way, I want to say.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I told this. Go ahead.
Is acknowledgement is so important and so powerful. You just acknowledge the woman where she is and support her where she is, whatever stage of grief she's in. If she's angry, support her in her anger and
Yes.
understand.
Yes.
And acknowledge, yes, of course. Why wouldn't you be angry? Be angry. And then we move there.
And move on. Right. Move on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is awesome. Oh my God, I'm so happy that you're here. I'm able to see your face.
So we're going to be hearing more from you in the future, and I don't know if Karen told you or if I told Karen yet, but I'm going to Phoenix TV. So so I'm going to be launching. It's like a TV show there. She Rises Studio. We have a platform, so we can do TV shows and stuff like that. It's like a podcast, but it's on Netflix and all those, like, everywhere Netflix and all that stuff is. So it's a TV show.
Cool.
So you'll be invited to speak there because I'll be covering all health. I'm still that nurse at heart. I'm a leaky gut expert, but I am everywhere on Facebook telling people how to help themselves. So, because that's what nurses do. We a lot of people out on Facebook and on social media are trying to separate the body. They don't understand that it works together, and that if one thing is failing, like that emotional part, that grief, that will keep you stuck, and that has a lasting impact on the stress in your body and everything in your health. So
absolutely,
as nurses, we know that because we nurse the whole person and we nurse those families. So we understand that a lot of people don't. They don't. So I do. I mean, my heart does bleed for you for what you're going through, because you're on a long fight. It's not an easy fight. So people have been out there for a long time trying to make that change, and the more people that you can bring into your arena, the stronger you get, because there is strength in numbers. That's why I suggested going out into those communities and bring people into your network. It's not about you fitting in. It's about you standing out and saying, this is who I am. This is what I stand for, and getting people to jump on your bandwagon. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because you got everything you need inside of you. So you just got to get out there, and you just got to share that. People, when I came online, people were telling me I had to do this and I had to do this to talk about health. I was like, please, you can't. I could put in my pocket what you know about health. Don't tell me how to represent what I've been doing. You know what I'm saying? So you believe in that. We get that imposter syndrome sometimes because you see that, and we don't need to have that imposter syndrome, because we are qualified. Those degrees qualify us. Every day that we show up and we save another life, that makes a difference.
Student finds us.
Yes, that's right. We're so qualified for what we do. And we don't need to fit in. We need to stand out and just be who we are, and we'll get there. It's just don't give up. So, some days it gets really, really hard. It does. No matter what your fight is as an entrepreneur, it gets hard. You get that self-doubt, like, can I really do this? And a lot of times people start, they become an entrepreneur because they want more time and more freedom, and all of a sudden they got no time and no freedom, and they're like, oh my God, this is so not what I was bargaining for.
Especially that first couple, like, oh wait, this is not a break. I thought I was gonna give myself a break. This is not a break. This is hard work.
Listen, but anything worth doing is worth doing well. It takes time. So you hear a lot of people out there talking about $100,000 months. I don't know what world they're living in. You know what I mean? That's them trying to get you to buy their program and do that and keep you stuck in that mindset. But you shouldn't be, if you're trying to earn your first $5,000, you shouldn't be looking at a program that's going to get you your first 100,000, because you need to learn how to make that first five. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of people out there selling a lot of mixed messages, but just stay focused. Do what you need to do, and just show up every day, just like you show up here. Just show up. Yeah. That's what it's about, showing up and letting people know who you are. This is who I am. These are my core values. This is what I stand for, and this is my mission. Write your mission down, girl. Mine is to help more people get into a body they love, and with the nutrition, active movement, and spirit of mind. So, and I'm out there doing it every day. And let me tell you, I've been out there since COVID. Sometimes it gets really lonely. So find those communities that are going to support you.
Right. That's awesome. That is I know we all have to get to work, our multiple jobs and our multiple reasons. So thank you so much, Jatu, again, for taking the time to come. I want you to state your name, the name of your business. I want you to tell us who you are one more time, the only African-American nurse manager. I want you to put it out there before we come on.
All right. Well, I'm Jatu Boikai Stallings. That's my married last name. And I am the only Black nurse manager of a maternity services unit in the entire state of Ohio. I have a business called mobinurses.com, where I offer perinatal education and advocacy for women, all women, but especially women of color, at a cost. At some point, I would like to offer it to women who cannot afford it, because this is a really, really good opportunity for women to get the education, the advocacy that they need to get through their pregnancy, because it can be a very lonely time and a very time for a lot of women. And so I want to be that support system. I should say, want to be that support system for women through their pregnancy and beyond. You know, in the postpartum period, postpartum depression is huge as well. And we also offer postpartum services to support women after they have babies. So that's what I'm doing, and I thank you guys so much for bringing me on here to talk about it.
I'm so glad you came. It was great getting to meet you. I put my email in the chat so that you can get it and stay in touch. I'm on LinkedIn, and you'll be seeing this on LinkedIn, because everything goes there too. I'm on 9 platforms, honey. This is gonna go very big, very quickly. So,
no, I love that.
I love putting the word out about what people are doing. So, and people want to know. So I thank you for coming. I'm gonna stop the record, and then we're gonna hang out for 1 second, okay? So guys, this was Jatu Boikai. She's advocating for maternal health in disparaged communities. Please send your support in any way you can. Let her know that you're out there fighting this fight with her. This is my good friend Karen Walk as well, and we hope you've enjoyed this section of Kitchen Chats. If you like it, like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Have a great day.